Okay, how are you today? How many of you have started a business already? Raise your hand. How many of you are going to start a business in the next year? How many are going to start a business at some point in time? Okay? Excellent. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but first I want to talk about something else, something more important, and that is marriage. You ready? How many of you are married? Okay, so a third, a quarter? So this could be, this actually is about how to get married. So, I don't know, this might be interesting to some of you. My wife of 31 years is here, so maybe if we get stuck on any of this stuff, she can help us out. She's been helping me for 31 years. We're going to talk about the things that are most important in your minds when you're thinking of your spouse, who you're looking for. Okay, so I did some informal market research with a group as we came together here today, and John is president of By Monday, and raise your hand, John, or stand up or something. John is here today. We're happy to have him, and Tom Pittman is running the IT. Tom's with our company. So John, what do the cards tell us? We asked random people, men and women, what are the most important reasons or things that you're looking for in a spouse? So this may be good market research for some of us who are kind of out there in the market still. What did we find out? What did men say?
Okay, so I'm going to talk a lot on the microphone. Okay. So for the men, the most common answer was spirituality. Spirituality was very important, and actually a close tie with that was looks. Spirituality and beauty were really the two
Okay.
types of each. Actually, no. I take it. I just tell you this just now. Personality was out of 10 cards from the men. All 10 of them had something related to personality on it. And 6 out of 10 had something related to spirituality, and 6 out of 10 had something related to looks.
Okay.
Yes, personality.
Personality was number one then, right? So we had a tie between spirituality and looks?
Yeah, and then a close next is healthy, and then hard worker for the men.
So the top one is personality.
Yeah.
And let's do a tiebreaker here. Men only vote on this. Who says spirituality is number 2?
Girls, cover your eyes.
Never mind. Let's just call it a tie, shall we? You might be sitting next to your future spouse. We don't want to blow anything for you right here. Okay, so what do women say, by the way?
So for women, it was a tie between spirituality and hard working.
Okay.
Ambitious.
So can we translate that into ability to earn? Should we call it what it is, right? Okay. And what was...
Actually didn't even make it on any of the cards for the women.
What didn't?
Beauty did not make it on any of the cards for anybody.
Okay, so women don't care about looks? Is that what we're saying? What was number 3 for the women's perspective?
Something related to the sense of humor, kind, nice smile, easy to get along with. That was third.
Personality. Again.
And then
Okay.
And then a distant last was smart.
Distant last. Oh, that's kind of a slap in our gender face, isn't it? Okay, well, we can live with that. So let's take the women's perspective, and we'll put those in spirituality, hard work, personality. Hard work being code for how much money is this guy going to earn if I marry him, right? All right, so we're just putting, this is a little app we created. Actually, we've used it in dozens of organizations, but forget about business for a second. We're talking about the more important aspect of marriage. So we're just kind of putting in here the 3 factors. We have your future spouse, men, this is about you, right? What she is looking for. We're taking those attributes. Spirituality, personality, and hard work. We have your future spouse, what she wants in these 3. You, what you're doing in these 3, right? Your current score. And we have your challengers, your competition, the market, what other guys are doing. So let's look at this. Women, you need to help us now. Women in the audience, tell us what the answers are. On a scale of 1 to 100, the most important one was spirituality for women. So on a scale of 1 to 100, how important is that? Independent scale, 1 to 100. Women only. Yell it out. Is it 100? Okay, so that's a deal breaker, is what you're saying.
Well, if it's the right spirituality, then the personality will be awesome, and I'll be
Get the spirituality right and the rest falls in place. But what if the guy's got some room to grow? What if he's not perfect? Can you give him a little slack here? Are you looking for the absolute perfect guy from a spiritual standpoint? Or should we start with, say, 85? I'm trying to give you guys a break, okay? You want to start at 30. It's a good starting point. Room for improvement, okay? So why don't we say, let's say 85 just to give the guys a break here, because 100 is kind of a hard standard to have at age 25 or something, right? Okay. So what's the next one was hard work, ambition. It's less than spirituality, right? It's number 2, so it won't score as high as far as what you're looking for, women, but where would you put that? Please don't say 100 over here. You're going to be hard to please. I don't even know who said that, so I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I know the voice came from this side of the room, but hard work, how important is that? How would that be scored on a 1 to 100 scale? 75? Okay. It's pretty important, so it's got to be kind of north of 50, right? And that leaves personality. How important is that one? Less than 75 now, because we're number 3. Okay? Do you have a thought? 60? 34?
74.
74, you're saying it's right up there with hard work. Okay. So men, what we've done here is very important. We have drawn a picture of what your future spouse is looking for, right? Generally speaking. This is, by the way, an interesting conversation after you're married. My wife and I have been married for 30 years, and I sat down and I asked these questions. You'll see kind of as it goes how interesting that conversation was. Let's get out of this one now and get into you. So men, honestly, how you doing? You got to score yourselves here, right? This is an aggregate score. This isn't an individual score, although this could be applied to an individual you looking at an individual woman and seeing what she wants and seeing how you match up. Well, why don't we just say, because I'll take the pressure off of you, why don't we just say that your spirituality is a 73. How did I come up with that number? I have no idea. And it doesn't much matter. But you get the concept here. Hard work is, you're a 92. Now, you are in college, after all. You are kind of trying to improve yourself and get a degree and move on. But in personality, you're a 43. Sorry. I know none of you score that low, but for demo purposes, we'll look at it. Now, let's get out of you and look at your challengers. This is the general market now, as we look at all challengers and everything that this woman you might be wanting to marry is looking at, okay? Or you could apply it to an individual guy that's your rival. At one point in time, Jill, you remember I was up against one last contender, right? It got a little dicey, I have to tell you. But I won, so I'm happy. So go ahead and... Oh, whew. That's the right answer. Thank you. I'm taking you out to dinner tonight, honey. Thank you. Okay, so the challengers. Let's say personality is like sky high, 92. And spirituality, they're all from California, so they're 61. I can say that because I'm from California. So it's a little self-deprecating there. So sorry about the stereotypes, guys, but we like to serve, don't we? We do some things well. Hard work would be in the 50 range. So we're laid back in California. So we'll pull out of that one now. We've been able to capture, right, what's going on, what's happening. Let's look what happens when we put your future spouse's picture of what she wants and superimpose you on it. So you're in the game where you overlap, right? You're scoring some points where you're surprising and delighting and doing more than what she wants. I mean, she's going to be telling her roommates, hey, this guy's, it's even better than I thought. He's studying for brain surgery or whatever, right? He's ambitious. But here's the area where you need to either improve quickly or distract her from looking at that, right? You want to kind of have her looking at this down here, right? You want to accentuate the positive. Now, maybe you can improve. Maybe there are some Dale Carnegie courses you could take or something. Maybe you could improve your personality and engage more with people and have a better sense of humor. People can improve in almost anything. So this probably gives you a sense that you need to improve to match the market that you're going for a little bit more closely. All right, so let's see what happens when we compare what your spouse wants to your challengers. What's going on here? So here is the easy competition. Why is this the easy competition? Because you're there too, right? So you're like apples and apples. This is the more difficult competition where your competition's better than you. In this case, it's in personality, so maybe someone's funnier or more engaging. But here is the vulnerability that your competition is showing, which is also your opportunity, right? You can move in, you can make some progress in this area because competition isn't. So if we then compare you against your competition, here we have the average, and you're looking good. And these are not the droids you're looking for, okay? Pay no attention to that guy's ability over here. The guys got that more than the girls, by the way. You know, Star Wars is kind of a guy thing, I think. I'm sorry. Let's see what happens when we compare all three together. Strategy tends to open up. Let's look at personality. We click on that, we can kind of see what's going on in personality. So what's happening here? Strategically, the market that you're going after is way above what you're offering. So you better change or distract quickly. And the competition is beating you, so you've got to do something here. And this is too wide of a gap to overcome if you're going to seal the deal, all right? We back out of this and go deeper, dive deeper into spirituality. We can see that you're right there, almost where she wants, and higher than the competition, so that's good. You're in a very good marketable position here, and then backing out of that and going into hard work, you're in great shape. In fact, you're killing the competition here. So strategically, you probably wouldn't do much here except accentuate the fact that, show your good side, show your good parts. So if we get out of that now, guys, so anyone that wants this app, you can have it. We'll figure out a way to get it to you. But you're probably not going to apply it to dating, now that I think about it. I mean, dating is more of an intuitive thing, and you probably shouldn't be too analytical about it, but these things you're probably naturally thinking about as you go forward. Let's now look at how this applies to business. I just wanted to anchor this example in something that you've all done recently before you got married, or you're doing right now as you're looking at marriage. So we're going to clear the decks here, and I want to tell you about a story that I had in a startup long ago. This was my second startup. I was in my 20s, so I thought it might be applicable to where you guys are right now. The same type of thinking is necessary. For me, the three factors with my clients in my market were quality. So we'll back out of, price is good, speed instead of service, and quality instead of utility. Those were some presets from a strategic conversation. Price, speed, and quality. Literally, we needed to become better, faster, and cheaper. Now, as we've used this model in a lot of other engagements with large companies like Lockheed Martin in our consulting practice, and AT&T and others, I find that these three factors are different. You notice the men and women are slightly different, and between women, we might find some different factors of what they're looking for. What I found is every client is different, and they all have different factors they're looking at, the things that would get them to buy, the things they're considering when they buy. So when you're starting up a company, you have to be very mindful of who's my market, what are the factors they're considering, how important are they, and we start comparing. It's a very simple and powerful way to go from a strategy standpoint. So here's what they were looking for. Customer demand was, price was very critical, it was probably an 85. Wasn't as high as speed, which was 99-ish. I mean, it was very high on speed. Quality was 65. It was, they could, as long as the quality was kind of in the ballpark, they were fine. But the business I was in was a photo business, and we were doing professional commercial photo work. Before the days of digital photography and digital files, we were doing actual chemical and darkroom work. And at the time, speed was extremely critical. We were dealing with architects and ad agencies and large corporations. And what they really, really wanted was for us to do our work fast so that they could have as much production and creative time as possible. That was worth more than anything. And we came into the market and found that we could cut a few steps out of the process in the photo business, and we got our work back to our clients in 4 hours instead of 2 days. So there's almost 2 full days of productivity and creative time for our clients. That was the hot button. As soon as we figured that out and adjusted our processes to get out to them very, very fast, these others mattered a little less. Okay? So our company output was speed. We were right there at 100. And quality, we were in pretty good shape at 60-ish, 65. And price, we were probably about 82. So our price was good, especially when you consider the speed, right? Because that helped their pricing. It was worth it to them. So the valuation of what we were doing was pretty good. Our competition was, the quality was a little higher than ours, about 75, and the price was a little bit better than us. They were, I put them probably in the, about 80, 85. But their speed was terrible. Their speed was in the 35 range. Now, if you compare the customer demand to what we were doing, it's easy to see that we were almost perfectly matching what they wanted. Which, if you can do that, okay, and even exceed it in some cases, if you can match your market, you've got them. Especially in light of mismatches or gaps when the competition is concerned. Let's look at what the market was wanting versus what the competition was giving. So here's a huge, huge chasm, and we were able to step in and fill it. My advice on starting businesses is never start a business if the market doesn't have any gaps with existing competition. You're wasting your time. Now, you can create a market, but initially you want to fill a need in a market, right? And look for this kind of a dynamic where 1 or 2 of the main 3 factors, which incorporates about 90% of the buying decision, are off and there are gaps. Once you see the gaps, then figure out how to fill them. This business went from $5,000 a month the first month to $327,000 the 18th month, and the world's largest photo lab out of New York came and bought us after 18 months. It was kind of a wild ride, but a lot of fun. We were able to do that because there was a gap we were filling. So look for the gaps before you start a business. Figure out how to fill the gaps before you start the business. And then go out and do some test marketing, do some trials, figure it out. You've got to differentiate yourself, just like if you're dating, right? You have to differentiate yourself from the competition. And you have to fill the needs of the customers. So, that having been said, let me talk just a little bit about entrepreneurship, okay? Internal entrepreneurship. So just show of hands, I'm wondering how many of you will probably get a job first before you end up starting a business eventually? Okay, so that's most of you. And that's kind of a nice path because you need experience, you need capital, you need connections. Getting a job first is often the way to go right out of college. If you're going to do that, then figure out how to be entrepreneurial inside the organization that you're working for. Figure out how to learn all the skills, become proficient at them. Look at your intended market. Get some intel on the market you're going to go into. Spend some time studying it while you got a paycheck and you're gaining experience. In fact, preferably, get a job with a company in the field that you want to start a business in. Does that make sense? Even if that opportunity pays you less money than something else right out of school. This is the best advice I can possibly give you. And I've seen this mistake made as I've mentored students over the past couple of decades here at BYU. Biggest mistake they make is, this company is offering me $5,000 more than that company, so obviously I'm going to take the higher salary. But when you sit down and question them and say, well, wait a second, what are you going to lose in the way of experience and connections and knowledge of the market that you want to get into? And when those questions are asked, then it's a different ballgame altogether. So the best thinking I can give you from 30 years of being out in the market is just what I'm saying. Be strategic. Be thoughtful. Be purposeful about that first job, that first business. Look for the gaps and fill them and get the right experience to do so. Let's talk just a little bit about innovation now. Because it's really the same as entrepreneurship, isn't it? And I'm going to kind of give an umbrella definition of entrepreneurship, and innovation. Are you ready? Here it is. It's problem solving. Problem solving. This can be applied, this little model and this way of thinking can be applied to any problem in any company. From how to get a raise, let's think about that one for a second. That's important when you're working for another company. How do I get a raise? Well, who's in charge of giving you the raise? Your supervisor, your boss? Go to your boss and say, what are the 3 most important things I should be doing? Would you rank them for me? And tell me how I'm doing. And kind of what's the general workforce doing? And start seeing those gaps and start attacking them. And show improvement in the areas that you need to. That would get you the raise faster than anything else. Our on-time shipping record is really low. We're doing terrible. Okay, what are the 3 most important factors for shipping more quickly? How should we be doing? How are we doing? And so this type of thinking is pretty critical. Any problem you have, apply this type of thinking to it, and you can solve it. If you can solve problems, you're a better entrepreneur, a better entrepreneur. And of course, as you all know, you have greater opportunities opening up. Because solving problems is nothing more than adding value. I can tell you one thing. When you have your first job, and you start working the very first week, and you can demonstrate these skills, you will be singled out above any other employee in the organization, regardless of tenure. It's a shocking statement, isn't it? You can bypass in the minds of supervisors and the hierarchy of the organization people that have been here 5 and 10 years before you. If you can show the ability to do this and apply this thinking to the problems that vex any organization, and there are many of them. In fact, the most important problem that most organizations struggle with is, how do we sell more? And we've gone through that demonstration. What do our clients want? How do you rank them? How are we doing? Where are the gaps? Let's fill them. Yes?
A big one for this audience also might be the problem of raising money if you're an entrepreneur. As if you go to an investor, you could ask him the same 3 questions I've heard.
Money is going to be the biggest and the first challenge you have as far as setting up the organization. You might have a great business plan based on this thinking, but as John's mentioning, how do you get the money? Well, isn't it important to figure out what the venture capitalist capitalists are thinking? Or the bank? I'll tell you, that first startup we did, the color lab, the photo lab, we went to 50 banks. 50 banks. And they all said no. They said, boys, to me and my partners, they said, this market will chew you up and spit you out. You ever done this here? You ever done this anywhere? And 50 times we heard that same story. We finally figured out what it was they were looking for, because then we started asking the questions. So tell me, what are you looking for? What would succeed? How can we make you feel confident in this? And we started getting feedback, and then we were able to make it happen. So raising capital, what you'll find is with venture capital groups, you'll find that there are things like experience of the team, right? So you may not be able to satisfy that one unless you bring in other partners or form a board. Okay, so think about that. They're looking for risk, minimizing it. They're looking for ROI. They're looking for 1 out of 10 deal to hit it, right? And so you want to show them that you're that 1 out of 10 deal. It's going to make it work. All right, let's check our time. So it's 4 o'clock now, and I think we have 15 more minutes. Is that correct? 20 more minutes? So what I'd like to do is open it up to questions about starting a first business or anything that you're kind of worried about or have some concerns about. We can address them right now out of some things that I've done. Maybe I've got some stories I can tell. Yes? How do you form the right management team is a pretty important thing, because we've actually done some studies that have found the most important 3 factors. Okay, comes back again and again, right? The most important 3 factors for entrepreneurs. Those factors translate into intrapreneurs as well. Okay, so let me tell you what they are. So we've interviewed and done surveys with thousands of people. So these are the things that as budding entrepreneurs and as near-term intrapreneurs within organizations, you really have to get right. And this will get into the question of how do you get the right team, okay? First thing you have to be is a wonderful communicator, a clear communicator. So why is this one important? Entrepreneurs are constantly writing marketing copy. They're putting together websites. They're pitching investors. They're talking to customers. Entrepreneurs are the best salespeople and the first salespeople in the organization. You're sharing a vision with employees. You're writing letters and proposals. I mean, you're constantly communicating. And if you're not communicating well, you will not succeed. Now, if you're not a good communicator, you can learn the skill. And I think over time everyone should be improving in this area. But if you're not a good communicator, you can partner with someone who is, right? You can bring an employee on, or you can bring a manager, or you can have a partner. So when you're putting your team together, think about it. Are you a great communicator? If you're not and can't get up to speed in the next couple of months, then you need to bring someone on your team who is. Another thing you need to be is an ambitious driver. Ambitious driver, self-motivated, able to sustain your effort, able to keep your energy up and your optimism going. I cannot tell you how critical this is, because entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, yes, it's about problem solving, but guess what? The problems just keep coming. And they're big, and they're hairy and monstrous. And it's almost impossible to do the things you need to do to make a venture work, inside or outside. So keeping your focus on the future and keeping your optimism high and your energy, and it's a very, very hard thing to do. But you have to do it. Now, if you don't have that capability and can't pick it up quickly, you need to form in your team someone who does bring that energy into the organization. Okay? So we have communication and we have ambition, and what's the third one, John?
Vision.
Vision. You have to be a visionary. Now, here's what I mean by visionary, okay? I'm talking about practical vision. Not the kind of head in the clouds vision where nothing's really practical is going to work. This is grounded vision, where you're seeing the future market. You're seeing where it's going. You're seeing the competition and how they're responding. You're watching the customers and how they're changing, the market and the economy, and things that are constantly in flux. And they will be constantly in flux forever. Just be prepared for that. But you have to kind of see the future and see what's coming and head it off. You have to skate to where the puck is, right? That old saying by Gretzky. And so a vision ability to see the future and to plan for it and to anticipate it and to watch out for risk because of what you can see in the future is pretty critical. If you don't have that ability, bring someone on with you who does. So think about that. And I would say in all the studies we've done a couple of years worth of research on this. If you can pull those three things off, everything else you've ever heard that's an attribute of an entrepreneur, everything fits into subcategories underneath those three. Okay? So we've been running what we call the Entrepreneur Index, and it's based on those three, and those three have subfactors, and those 9 subfactors have 27 microfactors or behaviors underneath them. And we're running that study in connection with BYU right now. So some of that will be published in Forbes.com, where I write as a contributor. And I think actually probably this week, something will be coming out on that study. The top 10 reasons why innovation and entrepreneurship don't happen. And the title will be something like that. And we're gleaning some results from the study. Did that answer your question about the team? Yeah. I think we kind of threw in the attributes of an entrepreneur in that discussion, but there was another hand back here. Yes?
How do you deal with the difference of opinion?
Run the gamut. Thank you. So, for example, I've had a good experience, and I've had a bad experience, and it's not live anymore. Is it? Okay. So I'm going to give you kind of both ends of the spectrum on that. The first thing that happened to me, in fact, it was the very issue that I talked to you, the color photo lab, that business. There were 3 partners, and from the beginning, one of the partners was not pulling his weight. But we liked him. He was very friendly and gregarious and just a lovable guy, and so we kind of wanted to bring him along. And then as we started expanding and opening a new location and doing build-out in the back of these spaces, We put him in charge of a few things, and he really blew it, and he lost about 100 grand for us in a growing company that's strapped for cash. That's a pretty hard pill to swallow. But we loved him. We liked him. He was our friend, so we kept him on. And we put him in sales, and he couldn't sell anything. And we put him in management, and he just got people mad at him. But we kept him, because he was a nice guy. So eventually, we got to the point, as you can imagine, where it just wasn't working, and we had to cut ties with him. And at that point in time, the value of the company was going up very quickly, and it wasn't because of him, and so the buyout became steeper and steeper all the time. So the longer we waited, the harder it was from a relationship standpoint, and the more costly it was from a financial standpoint. So very difficult. We did have a disillusionment. We did break up. We paid him off, and so we were happy when all that took place. But it was a hit that we shouldn't have had to sustain. Had we been smarter and had we dealt with it early, be careful about who you partner with. I've had another situation where we had a partner we didn't get along well with, and he needed a lot of help, but he was kind of remedial, right? He would step up, and with some training, he did step into a role that worked. And so that had a happy ending. Partner carefully, very carefully, and think about those three attributes that we need. And get your team well-rounded, but go forward very carefully. Once you're having problems, I would suggest the book Crucial Conversations that was mentioned by my former partners, written by my former partners in VitalSmarts here in Provo. Crucial Conversations, great concepts on how to deal with conflict. Every one of you should have this in your library, and you should be reading it and studying it off and on. You should be reading it before you have a crucial confrontation, right? A crucial conversation. Great, basic, wonderful communication, interpersonal conflict resolution type of concepts. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Great questions. We have time for a couple more. Yes?
Any ideas on some effective ways to help motivate employees, like, I don't know, maybe like compensation or if there's anything down practice?
Yeah. Compensation for employees is obviously a critical component of a business. It's part of the expense structure. You can't let it get ahead of you. I found that your risk goes down, your profit goes up if you can have some of your compensation tied to as a variable cost rather than a fixed cost. Okay, so example is in sales, if you can have more of the pay for salespeople be commissioned than a base salary, then no matter how much they sell or don't sell, you're always paying something that's a variable cost to the sales amount. That's one example of it. Another example could be in bonusing and profit sharing. You keep the salary a little lower, but the upside is higher because people can earn more money if the company does well. And there could be individual components and team components and overall components of that. You want to bring people on who have an entrepreneurial spirit, and then you can do more of the variable stuff, right? If you bring people on who are thinking, I'm just going to do what I'm paid for, I'm just going to do my job, I'm not looking at the company, I'm not an entrepreneur, then you're going to run into more of a fixed cost burden on the P&L. So you have to pay at market, you have to entice people and keep them. You want to give them an upside opportunity that keeps them there. The golden handcuffs is kind of an ideal situation if they're good people, if they perform. Answer the question? Did I do that? Thank you. Yes.
Can I answer?
Please.
I think also just another really important thing with hiring people is people really want to see a purpose when they're in a company. They don't want to get hired and then feel like they're a cog in the wheel and then nobody cares about what they say. So it's important to hire the right person for the right purpose and make sure that that person actually is able to have a voice and able to be a part of what's going on in the company. You don't just hire the person and just kind of leave him or her as that. That's a really big driver. We all, that's why we're in this room right now, because we want entrepreneurs so we can make an impact. So when we hire people, we want them to impact something that sort of defeats the purpose.
Thank you, John. So the issue of employee engagement is pretty critical. And in our studies, what we call employee engagement is really, there's a spectrum there. And on the low end of the spectrum is disengaged, where people are toxic to the culture and they're harmful to the bottom line. On the top end of the spectrum, we say is entrepreneurship. And that's where people think and act like owners. How do you get people to move up that ladder and think and act like owners, cut costs and increase revenues? How do you get them engaged in ways that do that? And that's a very, very difficult challenge, and it's a whole new topic that we don't have time to talk about today any more than we've done. I want to introduce you to a couple of books. One is Selling You, and this is written by John. John's brought a box of these at 25 or so, 24, something like that. So he's back at this door here. There are two doors. He's on this one, and he'll be handing out a few of these to anyone that's interested. This is about selling you in the organization, selling you to get a job, building your confidence, putting your best foot forward, doing some of the things that are talked about in the model. Another book, Indispensable by Monday. I wrote this in 2010. We brought one of these for everyone, so you're welcome to it. This will help you get a job. It doesn't talk about this model because the model came out after the publication. There's another book coming out that talks about entrepreneurship that will have that model in it, but this gives some ideas about how to add hard financial value to the organization. And it introduces a tool, different tool than this, online that's free that you can use. In your first job, you can start proposing and documenting ideas that help the company financially. So you're welcome to grab that on the way out. If anyone's interested in future stuff that comes out on Forbes.com, you can go to Forbes.com and type in my name, Larry Myler. It's on the book. And you can follow me there by my pictures. Click on follow, and you can get more of the stuff as we do our research that comes out. Thank you so much for your time. Best wishes to all of you.